So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, and their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Nicky Place, who's co-founder at Studio.Build. So, firstly, Nicky, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, Studio.Build, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Chris. Well, thank you very much for inviting me
You're
uh,
welcome.
today. I'm co-founder of Studio.Build. We started in 2001, so it was started initially. My husband and business partner, Michael, um, was a designer at a studio, and he decided he wanted to very much just do his own thing. Um, and I was working in the games industry then, and I was getting more and more. So this is in 2001. And I was getting more and more kind of just not disappointed, but just just feeling like I'd kind of done my bit. Um, but I stayed there for another sort of 2 or 3 years. Michael set up, but I was kind of his business support.
Yep.
So all the things that I'd learned in my previous job and industry, I thought I can really help Michael with this. So
Great.
I became his sort of all the things that he as a designer didn't want to do. So that was the kind of like the start of it. I joined him full time in, I believe, 2004, around that time. Um, and we were in London then, and we started really with not really knowing what we were doing in terms of who we were working for, and we were sort of we sort of considered ourselves, I suppose, a little bit maverick, if you like. Michael was sort of quite a left field designer,
Yep.
and we had absolutely no idea of sort of running a business
Yep.
really. Um, but we kind of found our way through, and over time became more sort of a, I wouldn't really say astute, but a little bit more kind of commercial,
Yes.
or have a bit more of an idea of what we should be doing as a business.
Yes.
uh, I still think we still we really don't follow that mold, I would say. But what we do is we work. So over time we sort of developed, if you like, a realized that we were gaining a lot of experience in working with quite small businesses, and over the years we've worked with quite big businesses too, but really helping them to really small businesses and medium businesses to kind of really sort of talk about who they are. Really, we
Yep.
realize that we really work as a sort of you know, on branding for, I say, predominantly quite small and medium businesses.
Yep.
Um, so we've got a lot of experience of just doing all kinds of stuff in terms of graphic design, but that history over the years has really sort of consolidated in what we do now, which is sort of helping businesses rebrand, really think about what they do
Yep.
as a business. Sometimes they are individuals. So we've worked with a number of really amazing individuals, quite local to here, who are like designer makers, furniture makers,
Oh, okay.
heritage sign writer. We've whole load of amazing
Brilliant.
people. But we've also worked over the years with big names. So we worked with when they were a thing, Virgin America. We've worked with Instagram and Google.
Wow.
For us, the real joy is working with, like, closely as a partner
Yeah.
with businesses,
Yes.
and I say businesses and individuals, because we can see the difference that it makes.
Yes.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Sorry, that
Yeah.
was a long intro.
No, I totally get it. I mean, obviously, I mean, we as an organisation, I work with SME, the owners of SME businesses, and yeah, the difference that you make and the make to them is so wonderful, um, compared to larger businesses. So I totally get that. So what would be a sort of a perfect and A grade client for you if you sort of paint a picture of somebody that would go that you could really help well and would really be delighted with what you do?
What would be the perfect client?
Yes.
Somebody who is, and we've had a couple, and got a couple of, well, a lot actually. I think somebody who's really open to the process,
Great.
somebody who really wants to, I think ultimately it's open to the process.
Yeah.
Somebody who really wants to make a change, or understands that they might not really understand the process, but trusts us to help them through it.
Yes.
Somebody, and it doesn't always happen. We've done and are currently doing a project for a really lovely organization who have a very small budget, but we can, we went into that knowing
Yeah.
bring it, and we've kind of done, we've funded that
Yes.
quite heavily ourselves
Yes.
because we really kind of believe in what they're doing.
Brilliant.
But obviously from a business point of view, somebody who's got, enough money to pay for the work that we're doing.
Yes.
However, we know that isn't, always the case, and we probably, much to our accountants, you know, horror sees that we do projects that aren't always quite as, as rewarding, shall we say, financially as they
Yes.
should. But yeah, I think ultimately it's somebody who's open to the process, because we've had some potentially great projects, but then the clients have been so fearful, and that makes the process incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And what quite often happens is then they'll say, no, I don't want to continue. And what we tend to see in those kind of situations is that they have an idea about what they're trying to achieve. And I think sometimes that is perhaps born of an idea that they think that that's helpful.
Yes.
Sometimes it's born of an idea that they're so close to their own business and what they want to achieve that they're afraid to let it go.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the best clients are the ones that are just go, do you know what? Let's do that. Let's do it. We trust you. It doesn't mean that they leave us to our own devices.
No.
They're open to that conversation, and they're open to ideas and opportunities that we might bring to them that they might not see otherwise.
Brilliant. Wonderful. And obviously you said I think you founded in 2001, so the 24 years or 24th year you're in at the moment, which is amazing. Longevity. I don't know if you are aware, the stats of business success and failures, unfortunately, are quite stark and very disappointing. But 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years since they were created, and of the 20% that survive, 80% of those fail in the following 5 years.
Wow.
So just to get 10 years, you're in the top 4% of the businesses in general. So well done.
Thank you.
Well, it's really important. It's worth celebrating. So that's a lot. There's a really great. So you're obviously doing lots of things right. What are some of the over that period? What's some of the biggest issues and challenges that you've had to overcome?
The biggest challenges.
Yes.
Well, we've had over the years, we have had some pretty big challenges. Not that long ago, a couple of years ago, we unfortunately had to make a couple of redundancies. And that was incredibly unpleasant for everybody. It was horrible. And it really wasn't what we wanted to do.
No.
And that was a result of a client not paying their bill. And it absolutely impacted on our cash flow.
Yes.
And we didn't know how that was going to pan out. And ultimately they did pay, but by then it was too late. We got to that point where we had to make a decision. And it really, we've been in that position before where it's like, literally, are we going to have to make a decision today? Like, we can't drag this out any longer. We've got to face the reality. And then something would happen, And I'd be like, okay, whew, we're okay. But that time, it just didn't happen,
Yeah,
and it was and it was really, really not pleasant, I say, for anybody. It really wasn't what we wanted to do. So I would say those kind of things are some of the biggest challenges. Yeah, there's no getting away from it. Financials and cash flow are part
absolutely.
the pandemic obviously was pretty, well, it's an understatement to say it was pretty horrific. I think, we personally got away. I think we were incredibly lucky. We weren't
Right.
touched by it in terms of personally, people being affected by the virus itself. We were affected business wise, and it was incredibly challenging for our mental health.
Yeah.
Again, I think we got off fairly lightly, but it was a very unpleasant time.
Yes.
Um, as directors of the business, we had, we were able to get financial. We were able to get a loan,
Great.
bounce back loan, but
Great.
in terms of personal funding, as directors, we had to fund ourselves.
Yes.
Thankfully, obviously, we were able to furlough staff, and so we were able to keep things kind of ticking over.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously a big challenge. But I know a lot of people had much worse challenges. Thankfully, we have come up the other side.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. And what would you say the biggest learnings you have about running and growing a business?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
What are the biggest things you've learned about running and growing a business?
Okay, that's a good question. That well, certainly in this business, and I don't know if it's true of any other business, but that you never stop learning.
Yep.
You never ever go, oh well, we know what we're doing now.
I know.
You can certainly, you have a lot more experience,
Yes.
but I don't think there's ever a point where you can just go, like, yeah, okay, yeah, easy, come into work, do it with your eyes closed. We always have to think about what we're doing, and we like to think that what we do is very tailored. Well, it is very tailored to each client, so
Yes.
therefore we don't have a, like, yeah, tick tick tick, yeah, fine, that's job's done, tick tick tick, yeah, that's job's done.
Yeah.
It does get easier, obviously, the more experience you build up with different types of projects and different types
Yep.
of clients, to go, yes, we kind of know how we'd like to deal with this one or approach this one.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the biggest thing is you never really, you could say you never stop learning, or you never really know what you're doing,
Yes.
I
Unfortunately,
like to think it's just like we never stop learning, really.
love it. No, absolutely. And you probably we're a business coaching organization. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest influence on you?
Business coaches.
Yes, or just influences mainly. It's obviously it's part of what we do. So I'm keen to know who the people have influenced you most.
Well, no, that's a really good question, because I can't say that. I think we've always probably been our own worst enemy, in that we've just kind of like found our way through. I think we're quite, I don't know. I wouldn't say that we sort of like pour over loads of like business coaching books or or so on. But one thing I did actually find incredibly helpful recently. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but basically I signed up to BBC Maestro.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The reason was Oliver Berkman, who writes for The Guardian. Um, so his course popped up, which was about time management, and he has a very philosophical take on time management, and so I thought, right, I'm doing that one because that's actually one of the big things. You know, it's like I think anybody, or many people in business always kind of like wrangling over the best way to manage time.
Yes.
But actually, it was the most enjoyable. I knew it wasn't going to be a bog standard one.
Yes.
It was the most enjoyable course because
Brilliant.
it's just like he just lets you off the hook. It's just like, look, you haven't got much time, so don't stress about that. If you want to do something useful, do this, do that, you know. And actually, like when I was off over Christmas with this awful flu, it was actually one of the most pleasant things to watch. And yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I've come back after the new year with some of that in my mind. Just like, don't stress, things will get done.
Yep. Absolutely.
Apart from that, I would say my mum was one of the most influential people because I wanted to go to college. And my dad said no. So this was like early 80s. No, you need to get a job. You know, it was going to college wasn't, or you know, art school for me. It was just like unheard of, you know.
Yes.
My mum said no, she's going off to college. I want to be an illustrator. I want to be a children's book illustrator.
Right.
Um, and she was like, no, she's going off, and she went back to work actually, and she got a part-time job to help. And sadly, she's not with us
Right.
anymore, and neither is my dad.
Right.
But I have her to thank, you know, a lot
Yep.
because I was
Yeah.
able to
Wonderful.
do that, and that led me to working in games. It was a completely weird trajectory, but that led me to meeting Michael, my husband, which led me to being here today. So,
Right. All has a purpose and a reason.
yes.
And how you? I love to collect quotes or sayings about business or success or anything. Is there any favorite quotes or sayings you catch yourself using a lot?
Um, Nothing springs to mind. I'm sure after this I would just think, oh, of course, Dan, you know. Well, um, yeah, other than don't think that you ever, that you ever know everything.
Yeah.
Um, no, I can't think of anything.
All good. What about book? I mean, do you have any favorite books on business or success or personal
No,
development?
no. Um, I have over the years read many, or dipped into
Yeah.
things. Um, there was a really interesting one actually. I saw it on my bookshelf actually this week. And oh, I can't remember who it was written by. But it's called Dear Client,
Right.
and it was written probably about 10 years ago. And I can't for the life of me think who wrote it, but she was she was a designer in a small studio.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting book, which basically says, you know, okay, from our point of view, dear client, please don't ask us to do this. Please don't do that. You know, this is the most insulting thing that you could ask a designer to do. And it's not from from a point of view of um, we're better than you
Yeah.
as designers. It's just like, look, it goes back to that, be open to the process. If you
Yes.
want to get the best, you're paying
Yeah.
for, you're paying for expertise and experience.
Yeah.
And, so if you want to get the best out of that, this is how to do that. So it's not
Yes.
really a book about business, but it was quite a good insight. And yeah, perhaps every client who wants to commission or work with a design studio should read it.
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. And so maybe looking forward to that. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Well, there's always challenges.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Um, so I'm not really sure. I mean, we're not very good at, as a studio, at saying, yeah, we want to do this in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. Um, so we're constantly getting approached by new business agencies, and well, I think they've kind of like stopped doing it now because they don't really kind of have much joy. But one of the most annoying things I think is when you get a cold call, and before anybody's really had a chance to say anything, it's just like, what are your plans for the next 2 years? Like, how do you get your new business in? It's just like, whoa, you know, I don't even know, so I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you. Um, I think we're very fortunate in that we have quite an organic growth. We tend to um, have lots of people coming to us, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's referrals, and sometimes it's just people saying, "Oh, I've heard, I've heard of you," or you were recommended to me, or we do have a pretty strong social media presence, which is
Yep.
managed by Michael.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, plans. Well, we just signed a lease on the studio just at the end of last year for another 3 years. So we're going to be here for another 3 years.
Great.
Uh,
Brilliant. And I'm keen to know what you'd say, Nicky, to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
can you say that again? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
Thinking of going to business right now. Well, I guess do it. Don't
Great.
be afraid. Because I think, well, I think it depends what your idea is. But if you feel really strongly that it's something that you can give it your all, rather than just thinking, I want to go into business, what shall I do? Which I think is a different kind of
Yeah.
approach. Some people say, I want to run my own business and I want to like sell it in 10 years' time. I think personally that's a very different approach, and I think that's for a different type of person.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, I think, yeah, you just kind of, there's probably a trajectory that you can follow. But
Yep.
if you want to go into business doing something that you really love, which probably sounds like it's really cheesy, but if you want to do something that you really love, or you feel really passionate about, or you feel very, strongly about, you're totally peed off with your job,
Yep.
and you think, I really want to do this,
Yeah.
then give it a go. My advice would be make sure you've got some cash to hand,
Yep.
of course, because it's all very well thinking. I mean, that's obvious, but
Yep.
very well thinking, yeah, I'll just do
Well.
it. But, it does take time. I
Yep.
mean, I was able to, when we started the studio, I was still working full time. So
Yep.
we were able to sort of fund the growth of the
Yes.
studio
Brilliant.
in that way. But I think do your research on the type of business, because a lot of people will say, what's a sole trader, what's a
Yep.
um what's a limited company, what's VAT, how does that work?
Yeah.
It's there's you don't need to know too much about it, but do a bit of reading about
Yes.
that.
Fair
And
advice.
I would advise actually getting an accountant.
Yep.
However small you are, I mean, we have an account, we've had an accountant, we've always had an accountant, and
Yep.
we're not massive by any means. And certainly when it comes to January and everybody's going, oh my God, I've got to do my tax return. And I'm thinking, okay, we don't have to worry about that, thankfully. Yes, it
Brilliant.
does cost money, but it is such a big part of, there's so much that stress is taken away
Yes.
by doing that. And obviously, from an advice point of view, it is a massive help. There are plenty, I think, of small business advisors, tax advisors who, will work with individuals. That would be one of the big things I would advise, rather than trying to. We did it for years. Struggling through with
Yeah.
VAT and so on. It's just like, oh,
No, let the experts deal with it. That's what I always think. Just anything you can delegate to somebody. One of the principles we operate, anything you can delegate to anybody, so you can focus on the high value activities that are going to make the business more money. The more money you're going to make, the more successful we'll be.
yes.
So very sensible thing to do. And finally,
Can
what's
I
the
just
best?
say one more
Oh,
thing?
yeah,
Sorry.
please.
I would say also, even if it's just a single web page, have a website, a domain of your own, and your own email address,
Yeah.
not, Nicky Studio.Build at gmail.com.
Yes.
Because we are dealing with people who you think, well, why aren't you using your domain name? And do not, well, I think this is a very personal thing, but I just think that when businesses rely solely on having a presence on Facebook, I don't think that's
Yeah.
particularly professional.
No, I agree.
Some people, it's fine, it's
Yep.
suitable, it's kind of, and it works for them. But I
Yep.
would say try to think beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Absolute sense. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
um, Gosh, when I think back to when I was 18 and I was wanting to be an illustrator, and so like, um, yeah, I didn't. I suppose at 18, I was kind of focused on how I was going to get to that point, like going through the, foundation course, art college, and so on.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really thinking beyond that. I think when it um, became a real issue was when finishing college. So when it's just like, okay, I've got to go out in the world now. So I suppose, um, I think given my experience and where I've ended up is, uh, just don't stress about where it's going to go and just kind
Yep.
of go with it. Take the opportunities and, you know, see where you land.
Brilliant. Sounds very, very sound advice to anybody, I think, to be perfectly frank. I like that idea. So Nick, it's been fascinating talking to you today, and thank you so much for your insight, and congratulations again on the longevity of your business. That's a real milestone that's worth
Thank
celebrating. My perspective. You're very welcome.
you.
And for anyone that's interested in getting in touch with you or your business, what would be the best way to do that?
I would say, initially our website, which is Studio.Build.
Yep.
It's not studio.build.com or
Yep.
co.uk. It's just simply
Brilliant.
studio.build. Um, you can see the kind of work that we do, and our contact details are on there. We also have a Instagram account. Up the top of my head, I believe that's Studio.Build, but I can't remember with all of these underscores and so on, which one it is, which is really bad for me. So I
All
think
good.
Studio.Build, and that
Yeah.
will tell everything you need to know.
That's good. I think it's got a contact page on it, isn't it? So that would be it. That would probably work, I would think. Wonderful. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by in another 6 to 12 months and just see what the next stages are of your development. But for now, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.